Right. Well, but I do I get your point, but it was strategic. I'm sure
Yeah,
they went to. I mean, they probably knew last night that they had an opening. Once the story started to break, or they knew the night before
yeah,
that they might have an opportunity there. But don't forget, those closing arguments and everything else are well constructed,
yeah.
and so I'm sure that the opportunity itself was kind of good, but then it might have also really changed their approach, their tact, and how they were going to go through with it. And I really wish that you and I were lawyers, and you. The reality is I think that what was interesting was the compromise was essentially they had to stipulate, or they wanted to get the congresswoman's statement into the record, and essentially the Trump's people, acting on behalf of the president, or
Right.
the former president I should say, stipulated that that was what she would testify. They had no reason to believe she would testify otherwise. I wonder, when this thing goes to if it goes to a grand jury, did they not just potentially even screw Trump because um, they didn't contest it? So if someone goes ahead and enters this particular statement into the record in a grand jury or federal trial, does that now have a lot of weight to it? Weight that if they had cross-examined her or done some other things, it might not have. I just wonder. I do wonder if there was some crafty 3D chess lawyering going on, and legislative maneuvers that the general public doesn't understand, but will sort of see over time that that final day had more strategy than we realized.
After being initially upset, and we talked about it when it happened, but after being initially upset, the thing I think they were trying to do was what I kind of just said, was they woke up thinking, all right, this McCarthy thing with this congresswoman, we want that in the record. Republicans are going to fight it because McCarthy kind of denies this on some level, right? Even though we all know he admitted to it on the actual insurrection day, right? So Democrats woke up thinking, we want this on the record. We really don't want to do witnesses because we kind of know how this is going to land anyways. Let's threaten it, and then let's close the door, and then we'll Republicans will freak out, which they did, and then maybe we'll get them to trade the witnesses for this statement, and that's what kind of happened. And maybe someone like Manchin, or maybe somebody like a more moderate Democrat was saying, I don't really want witnesses. I'm going to vote yes for witnesses to save Raskin and save the House managers. And then when we go behind closed doors, we'll say we shouldn't do witnesses. So I think that was kind of the move. There was also rumors, again, just rumors and innuendo, that McConnell threatened to slow down Merrick Garland nomination, to slow down COVID relief in exchange for no witnesses. From what I understand, the White House had nothing to do with that. Maybe Schumer and those people got involved, but look, Democrats knew they were going to get a guilty verdict, and maybe they were just trying to get what they could out of Republicans, and maybe the statement was that, and then we'll go from there. But as of right now, you're losing the optics battle. So if it wasn't that, I think you should come out and say that is my thing.
But my question is, are you really losing an optics battle? And
Maybe,
I'll
yeah,
tell you why. Because the reality is, and this is something that I've learned working in politics, and it's something I've learned not only working in politics, but working in politics in a space in which I spend a lot of time on social media. Um, Twitter's not real
yeah, yeah,
life. And not only that, though, don't forget, and you and I have a lot of friends who we have to pull it, to really drag them to vote, get them to care, and get them to vote regularly. um, they're not watching like you and I are
right,
watching. They're gonna see a 30-minute segment on the news if they see that,
right,
right? Um, uh, it, I think too often, and this is, optics is a phrase that came up during the Obama
yeah,
administration. I think that the problem is that too much of cable news, too much of social media is insider stuff that's not necessarily even consumed by a majority of insiders, right? You and I've had this times, where you'll see something and you'll react to it, and my reaction is completely
yeah,
different, and it's almost cynical. But it's cynical because I realize that, given my perspective, that not everything you see meets the eye, right? And so I think the reality is that there's been times I've been I walk that thin, I'm on one side, I'm on the political side, there's people on the official side, and I'll have communications with them, and I'll be very hot and livid about something, and I'll talk to someone on an official side, and they talk me down because they are seeing things that I don't see. Likewise, there's things that are happening in the political space that people on the official side are like, what's going on? But they don't understand some of the realities there. I say that all to say is that I think part of being an informed consumer especially in the social media space where you are going to have access to insiders and experts is kind of understanding it's kind of like an even keel, right? Because then I also, I also don't think that people should ignore the masses. I don't think people should ignore social media, because I do think people have a right to be upset to a certain extent. But there was a very popular social media person who saw it and went ahead and said, "That's it. I'm sitting on the couch in 22." That come on, come on. The reality is I think it's fine to be angry and offended. I wanted it. And we think about it. What's the real anger? Was he because we knew we weren't going to get eviction.
Yeah.
We wanted good TV. I mean that's the reality. We were robbed of good TV. Essentially, that's all that happened. Is we were robbed of good TV. There's not one person who voted for acquittal who would have changed their vote had those witnesses been there.
Yeah, I totally agree. I learned that lesson today, and I think you were involved. I was involved with it back and forth with somebody, a peaceful one, that kind of explained it to me. And I took it upon myself to text somebody who isn't in this political world, who doesn't pay attention, who votes, cares, but doesn't really care on the day to day. And I texted her and I said, "Do you know what happened today?" And she said, "Trump wasn't. They didn't convict him." I said, "Do you hear anything about witnesses?" She's like, "No." So Twitter isn't real life. There's just the draw there, and I'm starting to kind of separate the two. But also, what I mean by Republicans are better at it then is there will be more Republicans who believe that more Republican voters, not officials, but there will be more Republican voters who believe the Democrats caved than there might be on the other side. And even though if it's not true, and even though it's not what happened, there's going to be Facebook blitz ads with the headline that says Democrats cave. And
Yeah,
so
but go
it's
ahead.
just that's going to drive their base. So what I need is something to drive our base. And if witnesses weren't going to be called and we didn't get a conviction, something like Pelosi coming out and saying no censure, Republicans are cowards, blah blah blah. That stuff is going to help our base. So if you don't care about the optics of this specifically, you're going to have to feed your base something. And we wanted impeachment, you gave it to us. We wanted a trial, you gave it to us. And I get what you're saying. I guess what I'm saying is they're using it for ammo, and then we got to fight back on some level.
Right. The question I have for you, and I want you to think about this, marinate on this for a
Huh?
minute, is would the Democratic base ever fall for QAnon? Would the Democratic base ever fall for Pizzagate? No. What you have to understand, what I've always said, one of the biggest challenges that I've always said is that too often we see what Republicans do and we say, why can't we do that? And the reason why we can't do that is Democratic voters, the ones that care, are cut
Yeah.
different. If QAnon was thrown at Democrats, it would not last because there's a good segment of Democrats that would jump on it, and then there would be a good section of Democrats that whoa 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 whoa,
Right.
right? And so the thing is that yeah, Republicans are better at messaging because they're dealing with a bunch of dipshits. And I mean, it's literally think about how simple
No,
the
it's fair. It's
Republican
fair. Yeah.
messaging is. Think about the Republican messaging. It would never ever work with Democrats. It would not work. You cannot use stupid stuff. It does not work. I mean, one of the things that we know was really emotional and heated in Democratic circles was the hold the fun police
Yeah.
situation. You can't just throw a slogan at Democrats and they take it. We're going to fight it. We're going to argue it. We're not going to fall for just anything. The Republicans, you can throw a slogan at them and they're licking it up. So I think that's the one thing that it's easy to be good at messaging when you are dealing with a significant portion of your base that is gullible and will fall for anything.
You make a valid point. What I would say to that is this: don't give us QAnon. Don't give us easy slogan, catchy messaging. Give us what you are planning to do. So if Schumer was coming in saying we're going to vote for witnesses, but we're going to compromise the deal, tell me, hey guys, look, this is not going to go the way we want. We presented what we wanted in Congress, and we're going to have that on the record. Trump's still liable criminally as a citizen. We're going to go get you COVID relief. We're going to pass $15 minimum wage. We're going to get Merrick Garland as our AG, and we're going to just focus on that. We did what we could here. We feel like we're proud of that. Give us. We're going to go on and continue to fight. Right now, it just looks like Republicans are bad. We hate them. They're fighting us, and it's like we want to fight back too. So I understand that the our left is a big tent, and there's a lot of different people who need a lot of different things. I totally get it. I want to see the heart. And when we could get into it now if you want. Pelosi speaking after, and I know people love Pelosi. Sometimes people hate Pelosi, but when she was speaking in her anger and her passion, I want to see more of it.
Right. Well, let me give you one other analogy, and I think you'll love this as a sports fan. Um, Democrats are the people who will call in a sports talk radio on a Monday morning after a football game where you won, the team won,
Yeah,
but they're going to be mad that X amount of passes. What are they doing starting here? What
yeah.
think about it. Those Monday morning quarterbacks that call into sports talk radio even after a great victory and complain about everything, even though the team won and is going to the Super Bowl,
Yeah.
right? And Republicans are the ones who just take that take that win, and they show up, So it's good, but going to Pelosi, I will tell you, in my opinion, she's always been a badass.
Yeah. You met her, right?
I've met her a few times, and but the thing is that what people don't understand about when people want new leaders and new leadership, they don't understand how much leadership in a legislative body, whether it's Springfield with us in Illinois or DC, requires wisdom, right? Um, I know we hear all this talk about who should, and I have every reason to believe that this is her last term, and I think that the people in line to replace her are really strong. But I'll extend it to Steny Hoyer. I'll extend it to Hakeem Jeffries. James Clyburn, right? There's something about that older wisdom. I mean, think about it. Everyone talks about Pelosi being out of touch. The top three members of the Democratic House are Pelosi, Hoyer, and Clyburn, all over 70,
Yeah.
all of them approaching 80, right? You saw what Steny Hoyer did the other week. He had this old white guy from Maryland basically being ride or die with the squad,
Yeah.
right? I think that what people do not understand is just that wisdom, that sharpness, and you'll have young people who can do it, but there's something about the wisdom, because we know who the young firebrands are,
Yeah.
but those young firebrands may have had that same anger today, but I don't know if they would have been as effective, because what would have potentially been there would have just been a lot of rhetoric. But when Pelosi speaks, there's a command like,
Yeah.
damn, you done mess with the speaker, right?
Yeah.
It's what do you think?
So I agree. Let me take your football analogy and run with it with what you just said. When Pelosi is the quarterback, when my receiver goes across the middle of the field, it gets popped by the other team, I don't expect Pelosi to go and return that shot. But there better be that 15th guy on the bench who doesn't play a lot, who you put in the game for 3 plays, who's going to get a penalty for sure.
Maybe with an ejection.
Right.
Maybe with an ejection.
But you sacrifice yourself so Pelosi doesn't have to. I don't expect Tom Brady and Peyton Manning to take that shot, right? So that's what, as someone from the left, as someone who's been critical but who's a huge fan of somebody like Pelosi, send somebody else to do it then. If you focus on winning the game, which they are, send I don't want to say names because I know we know who we're thinking about. Send that person across the middle of the field to knock some heads. And you get the best of both worlds. You win the game, but you still get the messaging across, if that makes sense.